Until pretty recently, AI has felt like this amazing co-pilot.
Yeah.
Super smart, incredibly fast, always ready with a suggestion. But fundamentally, it was waiting for us, the human, to actually take the wheel. We were always the driver. That whole dynamic, it feels like it's really shifting now. We're starting to see AI move toward being a full autopilot. I mean, planning, deciding, and maybe most importantly, acting on its own, looping through tools, enterprise data, APIs, finishing whole workflows. So our mission today is to give you a kind of strategic field guide for this deep dive.
Right.
We wanted to help you move past the simple chat interfaces, the cool demos, and get you towards building reliable, high-impact production agents that actually deliver business value through automation.
Exactly. We're definitely moving beyond that initial novelty phase of the pure chat interface. That was mostly about generating text, answering questions. The next big wave is all about actionable, automated workflows. And look, this isn't just a nice to have, it's becoming a strategic necessity. It really demands a deep understanding of, well, not just what these systems are, but how you actually have to architect them safely. Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's define the core leap we're really talking about.
Yeah, let's start right there with the core definition, because that word agent gets thrown around pretty loosely, doesn't it? So for you listening, when we talk about agentic AI, what we mean is autonomous or, maybe semi-autonomous AI agents. Agents that can reason about goals, plan out sometimes complex multi-step tasks, call specific tools or APIs, actually monitor their own progress. And crucially, if things go a bit sideways, they can self-correct. All with minimal human hand-holding.
Right. And what's really fascinating is how quickly the industry itself has, validated this pivot. This isn't just research lab stuff anymore. Not at all. We're seeing the big players launch specific frameworks just to support this shift. You've got Anthropic rolling out their skills framework, OpenAI is investing heavily in robust agent tooling, Salesforce now has their Agentforce suite. All of this signals that clear shift from pure chat, which just gives you text, to tangible, action-oriented systems that actually manipulate data, call APIs, get things done.
Okay, and this is where it gets technically really interesting, I think, because the reliability of these agents seems to hinge on one key foundation. Reason and act methods. React, you mentioned they self-correct. And that loop, that ability to check its own work and adjust that sounds like why React is so critical. It's the method that sort of constantly weaves together the chain of thought planning, the reason part, with the actual tool usage, the act part. Is that right?
That's exactly it. Think about trying to book a flight with just a standard non-agentic large language model. It might generate a perfect plan, step by step, on how to navigate the booking website. Looks great on paper, but what happens if step 2 fails? Let's say the API call returns a server busy error. Well, the simple plan just breaks. The LLM has no real mechanism to recover or adapt. It's stuck.
Okay. But with React?
With React, the model actually reasons about what happened. It thinks something like, okay, my goal is booking this flight. Step 2 was calling the API. The observation I got back was server busy. It then acts based on that observation by revising the plan. All right, new plan. I'll wait 30 seconds and retry that API call. This ability moves the agent way beyond simple Q&A because it can critically reflect on the result of an action and then adapt its next action. And that's what makes these complex multi-step tasks actually reliable when things inevitably get messy in the real world.
That really clarifies the difference, but brings up a big strategic question. Why now? Why is this specific transition happening in, say, 2025? If React methods have been around, why couldn't we really do this reliably last year or the year before? What changed?
Yeah, good question. It really boils down to, I'd say, 3 main strategic accelerators all kind of aligning right now. First, we've got productization and platforms that are maturing very quickly. Look, building an agent demo, relatively easy, but running it, monitoring it, governing it reliably at scale, that's the hard part. Platforms like Salesforce's Agentforce 360, other vendor SDKs, they're now providing the necessary guardrails, the observability tools, everything you need to make reliable, large-scale enterprise deployment actually feasible. Second, the reasoning models themselves are just getting dramatically better. We're seeing whole new families of LLMs, think the O1 class from OpenAI, similar specialized models from others. These are explicitly optimized for deeper multi-step reasoning. They aren't just, faster chat models. They're built to be better planners. They have specific training focused on making complex function calls more reliable, handling errors robustly across multiple interactions. And that significantly improves the agent's ability to plan and execute over complex tasks, maybe even tasks that take days. And finally, the evidence from benchmarks is becoming pretty overwhelming. We're seeing agents achieve really strong results on incredibly complex, real-world tasks, tasks that genuinely reflect tough enterprise challenges. The prime example here is the work being done with SWE Bench and its successors. These benchmarks are showing that agents can autonomously diagnose and actually fix non-trivial bugs in large existing code bases. And these are tasks that used to be reserved only for very senior human developers. Seeing AI handle that capability is like a green light for much broader enterprise automation.
Okay, so the models are now much better, more reliable planners, and the platforms are mature enough to actually govern these complex plans safely. So the strategic imperative for businesses, then, it seems, is really pushing past chat and getting into genuine action. Connecting that improved reasoning directly to capability, what specific high-value tasks are these agents tackling today? Tasks that need that multi-step, multi-system capability you're talking about.
We're seeing immediate, tangible impact across really critical operational areas. Take customer operations, for instance. Agents are moving way beyond simple chatbots. They're doing things like auto-triaging Tier 1 support tickets, even drafting potential resolutions, and importantly, when they do need to escalate a complex issue, they don't just dump it on a human, they prepare a structured context packet, making the human agent much more efficient. Or think about back office automation. Here, they're handling really complex workflows that span multiple systems, moving data or triggering actions between, say, your ERP system, your CRM, and maybe external email systems. This could handle processes like managing invoice approvals or procurement workflows, and crucially, often with built-in approval gates where a human gives the final okay for critical steps.
Okay, I want to zoom in on that multi-system action for a second, because like you said, that feels like the true differentiator for an agent versus just a chatbot. Let's use the sales and marketing operations example you brought up. Can you walk us through a specific flow? How does an agent actually leverage tools and that React planning to deliver real business value there?
Absolutely. Let's take a prospect enrichment workflow. Say the goal is simple. Move a lead from just a basic contact record to a fully qualified account ready for sales outreach. The agent starts by reasoning about that goal. Then it acts, maybe it calls a web search API to find recent news about the prospect's company. It gets an observation back. Did the search return relevant press releases, maybe about funding or an acquisition? If yes, it acts again, maybe calling an internal tool to enrich the CRM record with those new details. Now, let's say the news shows the company just acquired a competitor. The agent reasons that this is significant, that the lead qualification score probably needs adjusting. So it then acts perhaps by drafting a personalized outreach email, referencing that acquisition news, maybe pulling from approved sales templates. And then finally, it acts again by updating the CRM, the system of record logging, every single step it took along the way.
Wow, okay. That is a sophisticated workflow, linking internal data, external APIs, critical business systems. It really paints the picture. But for the system builders and the operators listening, this definitely raises the stakes architecturally, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
we're potentially letting AI loose on our core systems of record. Before we even dive into the architecture components, we really need to hammer home the expectation setting here.
Oh, absolutely. We must. And the single most critical point to get across is what agentic AI is not. It is absolutely not a zero oversight, set it and forget it employee. Not even close. Precisely because it's acting in the real world on real systems, you need serious, robust governance. That means things like comprehensive observability, knowing exactly what it did, meticulous audit logs. You need built-in rollback functionality if an action goes wrong and needs undoing, and definitely safe mode fallbacks, like running in read-only mode first.
That emphasis on safety feels paramount. Okay, so zooming in now on the reference architecture itself. We need to understand the distinct pieces here and how they differ from, say, a standard RAG chatbot setup. You got the planner right. Takes the goal and constraints, turns it into a multi-step plan. Then the tooling layer, that's the actual connection to the APIs, databases, maybe RPA bots, and of course memory and context. That includes both the short-term scratchpad for the current task and maybe a connection to the broader enterprise RAG index for long-term knowledge. But hang on, looking at the structure, why do we need both a supervisor loop and a separate sandbox or isolated execution environment? Isn't the supervisor loop the part that runs self-critique, enforces human checkpoints? Isn't that enough to keep things safe and enforce the rules?
That's a really sharp question, and it highlights a necessary separation of concerns, really. Think of it this way. The supervisor loop primarily manages the reasoning and the plan. Did the agent choose the right tool? Is the plan logical? Is it staying within budget, maybe? The sandbox, on the other hand, or the isolated execution environment that manages the action itself and focuses purely on safety, it's fundamentally a security requirement. If the agent's plan involves running, say, a piece of code or making a critical write action to a database, That action must occur in an isolated environment, an environment that can be instantly terminated if something goes wrong, preventing any kind of lateral movement or unintended data corruption if the plan somehow goes haywire. And having this kind of rigid, layered architecture is absolutely necessary to mitigate some of the really critical implementation pitfalls we see. The first, and maybe most common, is the chatbot in disguise. You build something you call an agent, but if it doesn't have secure, vetted tools and actual execution permissions, well, it yields zero real business impact. It's just an LLM writing a nice story about what it would do, if only it could.
Right, just talking the talk. And I suppose the most terrifying pitfall has to be the data hazards. I mean, when you have an autonomous system actually writing back to your core ERP or CRM, the potential risk there feels massive. Can you maybe give us a quick anonymized horror scenario? What actually happens when a poorly governed agent starts writing bad data back?
Oh, we saw an early pilot, thankfully caught quickly, where an agent was tasked with consolidating duplicate customer records. Simple enough goal, right? But it misinterpreted a date format because of an unexpected API change in one of the source systems. The result: it auto-closed about 500 open, high-value support tickets by incorrectly marking their resolution date as last week in the main CRM's date field. Just complete catastrophic data corruption. It required days of manual restoration effort and caused significant business disruption. The lesson there is crystal clear, and it has to be mandatory. Always start read-only. Simulate the entire action path first. Then, and only then, do you carefully graduate the agent to limited write access under extremely strict monitoring and with approvals. And alongside that, you absolutely must be vigilant against shadow IT risk people trying to use unvetted connectors or unsupervised API keys and workflows that haven't gone through proper compliance and security reviews.
Wow. Yeah, that scenario perfectly illustrates why things like the sandbox and easy rollback features are just completely non-negotiable. Okay, so let's say we've done our homework, we've built our golden workflow, we've put all the necessary guardrails in place. How do we actually prove this is working? We need proof with numbers, right? What are the specific metrics we should be using to measure agent performance effectively?
Right. The measurement framework needs to focus squarely on two things: autonomy and actual impact. So the top metric, I'd say, is task success rate, or TSR. Simply put, what percentage of tasks did the agent fully complete without needing any human help? And tied directly to that is the autonomy ratio. That's the number of steps the agent performed autonomously divided by the total steps required for the task. You obviously want that ratio trending as high as possible.
Okay, so that autonomy ratio, that's really the core proof point showing we're moving beyond just Copilot suggestions and into genuine unsupervised action, isn't it?
Precisely. That's the goal. Then, beyond those core autonomy metrics, you look at more operational ones. Things like the escalation rate, how often does the agent hit a wall and need to bring a human in, and of course the ultimate goal is linking all this back to tangible business KPIs. That means demonstrating a measurable reduction in, say, cost per support ticket resolved, or decreased cycle time for a process, or improved lead qualification rates. You have to connect the agent's task directly to a financial or operational outcome.
That gives everyone listening a really clear quantitative framework. Okay, so based on everything we've discussed, the potential, the pitfalls, the metrics for success, what's the concrete, say, 30, 60, 90-day action plan for a team that's ready to actually jump in and get their first agent into production?
All right, days 0 to 30, that's all about scoping and guardrails. Phase 1, you absolutely must pick one, just one, golden workflow to start. What makes it golden? High volume, relatively low risk, clear SLAs already exist, and the tools it needs are reasonably accessible via APIs. A perfect starting point is often something like support ticket triage or categorization, beginning strictly with read-only access, no writing back yet. During this initial 30 days, you also define your core policies. What tools is it allowed to use? What's the maximum compute spend per task? And you design your evaluation harnesses. You need to define upfront exactly what success looks like for your TSR and maybe your target time to resolution, or TTR.
Okay, solid foundation. Then you move into the pilot phase, days 31 through 60. What happens there?
Right, the pilot phase. This is where you run that read-only agent in shadow mode. It runs alongside your human operators. You compare the agent's proposed actions or classifications against what the humans actually did. You iterate quickly here, tuning the prompts, maybe refining the tools to improve its planning reliability based on real-world data. Then, once the agent is consistently hitting your accuracy targets in read-only mode, you can cautiously introduce limited write capabilities. But, and this is critical only with human approvals required for any actual write action, especially initially. Think low-risk actions like drafting a reply for human review, or creating a follow-up task, never deleting or closing critical records automatically at this stage. And then finally, days 61 through 90, that's where you aim to scale and harden. This is when you might start graduating the agent to handle more complex, multi-step, maybe even multi-system tasks, assuming the pilot went well. And this is where the SRE, like operational discipline, becomes absolutely essential. You need full observability, detailed tracing, proactive alerts, automated budget controls, and those crucial automatic rollback mechanisms we talked about. Critically, during this phase, you also need to formalize your model strategy. It often makes sense to use those more powerful reasoning optimized models like the O1 class for the complex planning and self-critique steps, but then leverage cheaper, faster models for the simpler internal execution steps within the workflow. This helps manage both latency and cost effectively as you scale.
That lays out a really comprehensive, practical journey, from initial concept right through to a hardened production system. So, to sort of wrap things up, Agentic AI really represents this transformation of artificial intelligence, doesn't it? Moving from that powerful suggestion engine, the Copilot, into a truly automated action system, the Autopilot. And this leap seems driven by that necessary convergence of capable tooling layers, advanced planning methods like React, and perhaps most critically, the robust governance and architectural guardrails needed to enforce safety and reliability.
Exactly. And what this means, I think, for operational leaders listening is pretty profound. The shift from an AI suggesting the next step to an AI agent actually taking the next step, it means businesses need to immediately reevaluate not just their code and systems, but the underlying operational processes themselves, especially around those critical systems of record like the CRM we discussed. So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. Considering the power of an autonomous sales ops agent to potentially modify thousands of records, what's the one field in your CRM that, if corrupted by an agent error, would cause immediate widespread commercial panic? And how would you design and build that immediate rollback function into your agent's architecture starting today? That's the kind of analysis you really need to be running right now.